Niners' first draft pick of 1985 was a 22-year-old wide receiver from Crawford, Mississippi. In his 8 years in the NFL, this man has become one of the most productive offensive superstars in professional sports. Over these past 8 years, nobody has put the basketball through the hoop more often than Michael Jordan.
Wow! Michael jackknifing it.
Since 1985, nobody has put more hockey pucks in the net than Mario Lemieux. Mario Lemieux and the Penguins lead! In the last 8 years, nobody has hit more baseballs into the seats than Jose Canseco. Grand slam for Canseco. And since 1985, nobody has gotten the football in the end zone more often than Jerry Rice. Touchdown 49ers, Jerry Rice!
I run so fast because I'm scared. You know, I have people chasing me, but your ultimate dream is to get into the end zone, make something happen.
Rice has 97 career touchdown catches. 3 more tonight is an even 100, and he will tie the great Steve Largent for the most TD catches in NFL history.
This is something you dream of, and now I finally have an opportunity to really do it.
Jerry Rice and the San Francisco 49ers face the Atlanta Falcons on ABC's Monday Night Football. On the move. And a city with a new dome, the Georgia Sky Dome. 71,000 expected tonight as the Atlanta Falcons take on the San Francisco 49ers. Monday Night Football returns to Atlanta. We have not been here since 1984. Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford along with Al Michaels and Dan Deerdorf. Happy you're with us for our first visit to the Sky Dome. Good setting for tonight's game. The Georgia Dome, we call it the Sky Dome. We've been there too. The Georgia Dome, 71,000 plus, and it is a beauty. Tonight's game, the Falcons come in with a disappointing 3-5 record. This was a team that made the playoffs a year ago. If they are going to be back to the playoffs, they got to get it going tonight. Meanwhile, the 49ers are 6-2. They must win tonight to stay with the New Orleans Saints at 7-2 in the NFC Western Division. They play the Saints next Sunday, and even though they're coming off a loss, the 49ers out to the Cardinals, a loss for them, I think that was unexpected. They are one of the premier teams in the league, and they can look back to 3 weeks ago when they beat these Falcons 56-17.
And they scored those 56 points in the first 3 quarters, Frank. And here is a team coming off really 2 bye weeks. One was on the schedule, and the other was last week at Phoenix when they lost by 10, showed up in name only. But they're hungry tonight. They need a victory tonight, as Frank said, to stay even with New Orleans. They have Steve Young at quarterback having an all-pro season, an emerging star at running back in Ricky Waters, who can also catch the ball, and the one and only Jerry Rice. It's also a dream matchup in a way for San Francisco. The 49ers have the #1 offense in the league, and the Falcons have the worst defense in the league. So, Dan, in light of that, how can Atlanta win tonight's game?
Well, Al, they have to have some things go right for them tonight in all phases of the game. And let's start defensively. When they got waxed by the 49ers out of Candlestick Park, it was an uncharacteristic Atlanta defense in the sense that they didn't gamble very much. They really didn't blitz Steve Young a lot. They're going to have to change that tonight and really hope and pray for the best. Watch for the Falcons to come after the 49ers on offense with virtually every person on the team. Okay, offensively, Billy Joe Tolliver starts tonight at quarterback, making his 22nd start in the National Football League, filling in for Chris Miller, whose season ended last week with knee surgery. Obviously, Tolliver has to have a conservative night in the sense that he can't make a mistake early, but in the same sense, he needs to go deep. And finally, Deion Sanders, who is playing tonight, his first game since September 11th, needs a big return, either kickoff return or punt return, to make some Falcon points count.
Here we go at the Georgia Dome. Second half of the season beginning for each of these teams. Brand new facility as the Falcons move over from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. They'll kick off. Norm Johnson to put it in the air. Mark Logan and Ant Lee. Lee, a rookie, back to receive for the 49ers. Taken at the 2-yard line by the rookie Ant Lee from Florida State. He's out past the 20, and he drags Bruce Pickens from the 25 up to the 30-yard line. That's where the 49ers and their high-powered offense take over. Steve Young, last week riddled by flu symptoms, started the game but came out early in the second quarter, and Steve Bono played the rest of the way. We talked about Waters at the top. You'll see a lot of him tonight, along with Rathman in the backfield, Rice and Sherrard, the wideouts. Jones, a great pass-catching tight end, and a fine offensive unit. They've been together now all of last season and have made every start this season. From the 29-yard line, they start with Rice in motion, and the left-hander Young will go to the air, but as he is prone to do when the receivers are covered, or even sometimes when they're not, he loves to take off, and he scrambles for 3 up to the 32-yard line. Now the Falcon defense, last in the league, the G-men, Gann, Gardner, and Green up front. Then the linebackers, they play a base 3-4, Tippins, Solomon, and Tuggle on the inside, Connor, the right outside backer, McKyer and Deion Sanders, who missed last week's game, sprained foot, back in tonight, Donaldson and Scott Case, who's been hurt, back in the starting lineup. 2nd and 7. That's Odessa Turner, the former Giant, 86 in motion. And here is our first look at Ricky Waters, who picks up 3 to the 35-yard line. That's going to set up a 3rd and 4. Mike Gann in on the tackle along with Darian Connor. Joe Montana, still on injured reserve, but he has been throwing. We will hear from him at halftime. He feels he is ready to come back. And the question next week in the 49er camp will be, do they put him on the active roster? Do they put him on the practice squad for a week? Just watch.
Third down player here. Third down play out for the Atlanta Falcons. If they can hold the 49ers here in their high-powered offense, they would give them a big early lift.
It's Waters swinging to the outside, and they do hold as McKyer comes up to make the play near the line of scrimmage. McKyer fending off Roy Foster, the pulling guard, and the 49ers will have to kick.
I say will give them a big lift because the 49ers couldn't help but come in here licking their chops against a team that's rated 28th defensively in the NFL. 27th against the run, 27th against the pass. It's sort of, well, what do we do? Let's pick it. And the Falcons have held on this first series.
Deion Sanders, very dangerous every time he handles the football. Back to accept the kick at the 20-yard line. Klaus Wilmsmeyer, the rookie, to punt for the 49ers. And it's a high, very deep, great kick by Wilmsmeyer to the 11. And Sanders breaks the tackle at the 20, takes it back to the 25-yard line. Tackled there by Darren Jordan, a 54-yard kick and a 14-yard run back. And you take a look at Tolliver coming into the game. Miller hurt. Wilson is the backup. Billy Joe Tolliver, 2 years with the San Diego Chargers, then over here, and he'll be their man the rest of the way. Tony Smith is a rookie, and then they play the 4 wideouts: Rison, Drew Hill, the longtime ex-Oiler and Ram, Pritchard and Haynes, who can fly, and up front Ken, Hoover, Dukes, Fralick, and Chris Hinton, who's been banged up all week at right tackle. 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line. That's Drew Hill in motion. And this is Smith, the rookie, out past the 30 to the 33-yard line. Tony Smith out of Southern Mississippi, one of their 2 first-round picks. He's tackled by Thane Gash. Now the Niners, a base 3-4, Holt, Carter, and Fagan up front. The linebackers, Tim Harris with Keith DeLong, Mike Walter, and Bill Romanowski. And then the secondary has been suspect. Davis got burned twice last week in Phoenix. Griffin, the veteran, at the right corner. Whitmore, the former Giant. And Dana Hall, their #1 draft choice out of the University of Washington, is the other safety. It is 2nd and 2. Falcons at their own 33-yard line. And again, it is Smith, and he takes it up to the 35-yard line. Atlanta will do a lot of passing and very little running, but it might be incumbent upon the Falcons to establish some sort of running game tonight.
Well, one of the reasons that they don't run a lot is that they can't run. I mean, they have had precious little success running the ball, averaging less than 79 yards a game. And when you look at offenses around the league that use this spread formation with the 4 wide receivers, you see that they can run the ball. The Lions have had great success with Sanders, Houston with Lorenzo White. You've got to be able to have a back who can run the football from this spread formation, or Frank, you're in big trouble.
49ers are confronting this spread offense, as we'll call it, Dan, with 6 defensive backs. And that's not a bad way to cover it if you can get the run stopped up at the line of scrimmage. And this is what George Seifert, one of the great defensive coaches before he became a great head coach, is trying to do tonight. Stop the run with the 4 linemen and the 1 linebacker and 6 defensive backs.
That 1 linebacker right now in the 4-1-6 is Romanowski. They keep it on the ground again. Smith, and this time he got in behind Hinton but couldn't spring loose, and Ted Washington, 97, second-year nose tackle, the #1 pick out of Louisville 2 years ago, makes the stop. Look there at Andre Rison. Jerry Glanville in his 3rd year here took him to the playoffs last year.
Romanowski kind of roaming out, and a good play out there by Kevin Fagan, stringing the blocks out, and Romanowski making the move.
2nd and 10, 4.5 minutes into the game, no score. Falcons with their first possession. Tolliver flips one out to Keith Jones. Jones fumbles. The ball is loose at the 50, and the 49ers have it. It's recovered by Bill Romanowski.
Boy, and that, I think, is hustle by Michael Carter, the 300-pound nose tackle coming from the backside. Let's see if it's not Carter hustling downfield who doesn't get in on it. All right, let's watch Jones. Now watch the right side. There's one hit, and it is. That's Michael Carter from the backside who's hit jars loose that football. Boy, and already the Falcons have made a mistake that a football team in their position cannot afford. There's the one good hit. The ball's loose, and here comes Carter from the backside. Eric Davis, Michael Carter combined for a big play for San Francisco.
Michael Carter shaken up a little bit on that play. He is in great shape this year and playing some of the best football that he's played in his career. But obviously in a little pain on the sidelines at the moment.
49ers maintain a string. They've not allowed a point this season on their opponent's first drive of any game. 10:06 to go opening quarter, no score. Young and the 49ers at the Atlanta 48. Waters in motion. Young to the sideline. The catch is made at the 39-yard line by the incomparable Jerry Rice. Head linesman signifying he made the catch and pushed out of bounds at the 39. Appears to be a little short of the first down.
Rice going immediately right at Deion Sanders. Deion has done a good job in the past against Rice. Are both feet down. There's Deion getting back a little late. And they're going to say, I think, that he pushed him out.
And I'll tell you something, that, in my mind, that's Jerry Rice getting a real benefit of the doubt. Deion Sanders didn't give him all that much of a shove, and I'm not sure Rice would have come down with both feet in anyway.
Very dubious call. Ricky Waters on 2nd and short. His forward progress is marked at the 39. He appears to be a little short. Solomon makes the tackle. And you judge now. Another look at the Rice play.
Remember now, if the ruling must be that you would have plainly come down inbounds unless you're pushed out. See, there's Jerry Rice's right foot down. Well, I'm not so sure he could have gotten the left. It would have been very close. It didn't appear to be an open and shut case to just automatically give him the catch.
And Jerry Rice can do things other people can't do.
And like Michael Jordan in basketball, sometimes the superstar, he gets the benefit.
Your reputation helps on a play like that.
You got it.
3rd and a short one, and they get it. The first down on the carry by Rathman to the 35-yard line, just plugging along in his 7th year out of Nebraska.
One of the key factors in tonight's game is going to be the size of the Atlanta Falcons front 7. They're little. I mean, they're quick, and they rely a lot on the blitz. They do a lot of stunning, but they're small. And this 49er offensive line is as good as it's been in years. They've been together. They played together all last year. They've been together all this year. They are big. Well, they're not all that big, but they are very strong, and they are very good against the very smallish front 7 of Atlanta.
First down at the Falcon 35-yard line. Quick drop, and then Waters makes the catch and picks up a couple. Tackled at the 33-yard line. Solomon and Case in on the hit.
Jerry Glanville a little busy in there, patting all of his players who came out of bounds. He will put on a show for you. Very colorful man.
He was the defensive coordinator here a decade ago, and then was the head coach at Houston, and then came in 3 years ago. Pickup of 2 for Waters. Waters, in effect, a rookie, even though he's a first-year player. Last year he was on injured reserve all season. Big hole for Rathman, but it closes in a hurry. He gets to the 31. Torrey Epps and Jesse Tuggle in on the tackle, and it will be 3rd down and 6 for San Francisco with 7:50 to go in a scoreless opening quarter.
I think there might be a little pride working its way to the surface in the Atlanta Falcon defensive huddle. It's been a long time since I've seen a team embarrassed the way they were out at Candlestick. When you consider that over 400 yards of offense and 42 points were put on the board by the 49ers at halftime. Halftime. It takes a long time for a team to get over something like that if they don't come back and play strong against that team the next time out tonight.
You saw Doug Shively exhorting the crowd. He runs the defense on 3rd and 6. The catcher's made a great move by Sherrard. He had the 1st down and then picks up about 7 more, taking it to the 19-yard line. 1st down, 49ers.
Key to that, again, the offensive line of the San Francisco 49ers. The Atlanta Falcons were dealing up front with their front 4. They didn't fool the 49ers at all. They gave Young all the protection he needed to get Sherrard all the way across the field. And here's Pickens trying to make the stop, and Sherrard makes a good move on Pickens and ducks inside the 20-yard line.
1st and 10, San Francisco, 6:35 to go, no score, 1st quarter. Here's Waters, and he's tackled from behind by Jesse Tuggle, and we have our first flag of the game. Referee tonight is Pat Haggerty.
'49ers already moving back, so it's obviously going to go against them.
Holding, number 67, offense, still 1st down.
Roy Foster is the right guard. Here's Foster right here. I think he ends up working against Mo Gardner, the nose tackle. He down blocks with Sapolu and loses his footing, and you can see with that right hand drags Gardner back down to the ground and gets flagged.
1st and 20 at the 29-yard line. And it's Waters inside the 20, loses the football, but San Francisco maintains possession as it bounces out of bounds inside the 15 behind a Harris Barton block. Ricky Waters on 1st and 20.
Well, this is
a big game.
This is the old counter tray. The 2 offside linemen, Foster and Barton. Look at Barton, 79, right there, right through the legs of Jeff Donaldson. And there is the ball being stripped. That's Pickens that strips the ball. But this is one of the things the 49ers and their offensive line over the years have done so well. These guys can run, and they can get across the field and make blocks.
At the 13-yard line, it is 2nd and 5. Rice in motion. On the ground again, it's Waters, and that hole is plugged up by about 7 black shirts. At the 12, led by the nose tackle, Torrey Epps. So Glanville's team trying to hold off the 49ers on their 2nd drive. George Seifert, who took the team to the Super Bowl in his rookie year, and then to the NFC Championship game the following year. And then last year, at the end of the year, they were 10-6. They didn't make the playoffs, but a lot of people thought next to Washington, they were the best team in the league in December.
I think in the history of the league, they might have been the best team that did make the playoffs in that particular year.
They were getting better every week, doing 6 in a row at the finish of the season, but still couldn't get in.
That's Chicago, how they were at the end of the season.
Don't we remember on a Monday night?
Yeah.
3rd and 3 from the 12. Young. Inside the 5, the catch by Turner. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Well, what a great look off by Steve Young. He came back, looked out into the flat, and the coverage just disappeared on Turner.
Well, Frank, if you're going to blitz, you better get there. And I talked at the top of the show about how the Falcons are going to have to be more aggressive. They come with a blitz up the middle, and it is extremely well blocked by the 49ers, which gives you that single coverage downfield, and Pickens just no match for Turner. And it is just a gamble. The Falcons will lose all night if they blitz and don't put pressure on Steve Young.
The former Giant, Odessa Turner with a touchdown. Mike Kofer with the point after. So the Falcons fumble, and the 49ers exploited a 48-yard drive. 4:54 to go first quarter. 7-0 San Francisco. Football is the quarter. Deion Sanders at his 5-yard line, hopeful of accepting this Mike Kofer kick. He is flanked by Keith Jones and Eric Pegram. Will Kofer kick it down the middle? He angles it, and it turns out to be a beautiful kick because it's not returnable. And with Sanders back there, you don't want the Falcons to return it. Atlanta gets it at the 20 when we come back. That history repeats. Last year they went into Washington and the Redskins killed them 56-17, and then as you see on the left, they reeled off 5 straight wins and went on to the playoffs. Then this season, 3 weeks ago, they were blown out by the same score to the 49ers. Then had a bye week, came back, beat the Rams here last week, and as you see, there's the rest of their schedule over the next 4 weeks. San Francisco, Phoenix, Buffalo, and New England. Right now they trail 7-0. They have it at the 20-yard line. Steve Broussard is the sole setback here, and Broussard through the middle for a 13-yard gain out to the 33-yard line. He was their leading ground gainer last year, but has been pretty much a forgotten man.
And even with that run, still has less than 100 yards this year. And it has been a plummeting fall for Steve Broussard from the feature back here in Atlanta to now a guy who just gets sporadic spot duty. The beneficiary of some fine blocking up front, though, not challenged until he's well into the secondary by Merton Hanks. That's the type of blocking that makes any running back look mighty fine.
From the 33-yard line. And again, it is Broussard. So the Falcons, if nothing else, are trying to get the 49ers to change their defensive linemen. Atlanta with the 4 wideouts and normally going downfield and the passing game, but keeping it on the ground at this point tonight.
Well, because they're reading the 49ers. The 49ers are showing a serious lack of respect for any Atlanta running game, and I don't blame them. They're only playing 5 guys in what we call the box. They're only playing 4 linemen and a linebacker up near the line of scrimmage. And if you're Atlanta facing a 5-man front, you better run the football. Again, you see only 5 guys there in the box. 4 linemen and Romanowski there in the middle.
But this time the Falcons come up in the shotgun, and on 2nd and 5, it is tipped in the air. And at the 43-yard line, it is Don Griffin coming up with the football on a tip off the hands of Andre Rison. Another Falcon turnover.
Really, Joe Tolliver held that ball against the zone, and all they did was take the 6 defensive backs, set him up in a zone. He looked, and the coverage was there, and he finally had to let it go. The pressure coming from Pierce Holt. And completely actually should have been caught, or could have been caught.
What I don't understand, though, I'm back to why don't they run the football? They've had success running the football, and if the 49ers are going to stick 4 linemen up on the line of scrimmage and 1 linebacker, what are you doing passing the football? You're playing right into the 49ers' hands by throwing into that defensive line.
1st and 10 at the 43-yard line. Here's Wright.
Oh, nice.
And he is stuck by Sanders at the 41-yard line.
Oh, that's a great tackle on Rice, and that is not the long suit of Deion Sanders either.
He must have thought that was Tim McCarver. What a stick. Deion Sanders not known as a punishing tackler in the open field, but ladies and gentlemen, this is textbook right here.
And Rice is known as somebody who can really shake a tackle. This is absolute textbook.
That's a matchup that normally you would expect Rice to win.
Head in there high, shoulders in the crotch, lock the hands, and down goes Rice.
2nd down and 8 at the 41-yard line. Waters loses the football. And it appears the Falcons have it. Atlanta has it at the 43-yard line. But wait a second. After saying Atlanta, now Haggerty turns around and says San Francisco. Steve Wallace came up with a football, 74.
Pat Haggerty, the referee, has overruled.
San Francisco's ball.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one in the white hat.
Not to this crowd.
No. Good point. I think Pat Haggerty makes the right call. There is the ball. And there's Steve Wallace right there gathering up the ball. Donaldson piles on top, but you can see that Pat Haggerty was correct in coming in and overturning the initial call.
Key thing is they got it right.
That's why Pat Haggerty is one of the best referees in the game.
3rd and 9 from the 42. And Young, who's been brilliant on 3rd down this year, throws incomplete, a little too deep, intended for Sherrard, covered very well by Deion Sanders, who got a hand on it.
Well, you think the return of Sanders has had an impact on the way this Falcon team is playing?
It's almost as if he took it upon himself. He made that play on Rice, and it sort of ignited the crowd, and this was a very vital defensive series for Atlanta.
You see, Sanders, he actually lets Sherrard get by, but he has that unbelievable acceleration and speed. He can do that to a receiver, and he just could close so fast.
Wilmsmeyer to kick. Sanders calls for the fair catch, and we say it was a critical defensive series because if this team had fallen behind 14-0, well,
well, then you can forget the run, Dan.
1:48 to go, opening quarter, 7-0 49ers. Late first quarter, 7-0 San Francisco. Atlanta has it at the 14-yard line. Tolliver, the quarterback, hands to Broussard. They go back to the ground, and Broussard picks up 3 to the 17, tackled by Carter and Holt. Billy Joe Tolliver out of Texas Tech. I guess if you had a condensed scouting report on him, you'd say strong arm, headstrong. The two ways to describe him.
Well, he is excitable. I talked to him just before the game, and he said, I'm liable to put the first 8 or 10 passes right up in the seats, and now Carter is going out. We saw him earlier shaken up, and he tried to go again and obviously can't make it. But he is very excitable. He's liable to put the first few passes anywhere, and then he is very streaky after that. He can settle down and be great.
Dennis Brown replacing Carter. 2nd and 7. Tolliver gets good protection, throws to the 22-yard line, and the catch is made by Andre Rison. He is shy of the first down by 3, tackled by Merton Hanks.
Al, you talked about Tolliver and being headstrong. Mike Ken, the great tackle of the Falcons, telling me before the game that he gets so excited in the huddle that, A, he talks very loudly, that they have to tell him to be quiet. They don't want the other team to hear what the play is. But also, he gets in the habit of telling everyone the snap count is on 3, but he talks with his hands and holds up 3 fingers. And Ken said, we told him finally, take a knee if you're going to call the plays and talk with your hands, so at least they can't see you. It's bad enough they can hear you. A volatile, excitable young man, Mr. Tolliver.
3rd and a long 2 from the 22 with 15 ticks left in the first quarter. And out of the gun, the inside handoff to Tony Smith, the rookie. And Smith appears to be a little short of the first. Fagan makes the tackle, and as we widen out, you can take a look at where the stick is.
But they're going to be short, and again, it's strictly a 4-1 that they're stopping the run, and this is probably why they're not running. They just can't.
Well, I mean, really, Frank, you agree with me that they're doing the right thing. They've got to
they came in wanting to do it, but they're just not getting it done.
It is the end of the quarter as they measure, and it is a first down, and we start the second quarter. Monday Night Football returns after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Now the 49ers are playing the Falcons. You see these 4 guys, they're locked up one-on-one. The 49ers still have 2 safeties deep. That leaves 5 guys here in the middle. Now you got 5 offensive linemen against 5 defensive guys, and that means the back is by himself. You have to be able to run the football. It's to your advantage to run the ball against only 5 defensive men up front.
But on 1st and 10 as we start the second quarter, they go to the air, and Rison makes the catch and pays the price. He gets pushed back from the 36-yard line by Griffin and Gash, but it's enough for a first down. Another Falcon first down.
It'll be the zone coverage, and Rison reads it, takes it down for the first down yardage, breaks it to the inside. He's got inside-outside coverage, but he does get the first down. This is what they can do against the 49ers defense, so they ought to be able to pass protect, and you can find those little zones. You won't be able to take it deep, but you can find the little openings, the little seams, and that's where they have to work.
7-0 49ers, first down at Atlanta at the Falcon 35-yard line. Here's the rookie Smith. Out to the 43, and
there's Kevin Fagan.
Fagan going at it.
Fagan got a flag.
Fagan just launched himself. Is that Dukes or Hoover. I can't tell which one. I think it's Houston Hoover. Fagan, who was on the ground, just got up and propelled himself after Fagan. I mean, Fagan, who was on the ground, propels himself after Hoover. Is this the dreaded offsetting, or is this just on one team?
We have a double face mask. Number 65 on San Francisco. Another one on Atlanta. Offsetting.
Actually, it's 75 for Fagan. And 65 for San Francisco wasn't even in the game.
No.
Fagan and Hoover.
Well, not to be lost in all of this was the success Atlanta had running the football on first down.
They picked up 7. Jacob Green comes in for Fagan. Ted Washington in there in place of Carter, who was hurt. And on 2nd and 3, it is Smith and the rookie out to the 46. That should be enough for a first down. Jerry Glanville last night talking about rookies. What does he think about rookies? He says, I hate them. They ought to be illegal. They should have a rookie league or something. But he's compelled to go with Smith, his #1 draft choice, as his feature back at this point in the season.
He said he ought to be like freshman football used to be in colleges. They shouldn't be able to play. Right now, the Falcons are probably aware that on the bench is Michael Carter, and he is the man against the run for the 49ers, and he's not out there. Left knee sprain, he's questionable as to whether he'll return or not.
They put the ice bag on the knee. It's not a good sign for a return.
First down from the 47. Tolliver staying right in there. Throws. The catch is made by Haynes. And that's another first down. And Atlanta has now picked up 4 first downs on this drive. Davis and Hanks converge on the tackle, and they're in San Francisco territory.
Little crossing pattern by the 2 outside receivers, and Haynes pulling up in that little zone. Atlanta taking what the 49ers is going to give them. Crossing underneath. Sets up in the little open zone. And gets first down yardage.
Yeah, it's not a typical Falcon drive where they normally stretch the ball and go all the way downfield with it. This has been a very, very conservative, a very low-risk passing game to this point.
First and 10, Atlanta at the 42-yard line. Back to the ground, back to the rookie Smith. Plugs ahead for a gain of 2. Romanowski in on the stop with 12 minutes to go in the first half. San Francisco leading 7-0. They capitalized on an Atlanta turnover, went 48 yards, and Young hit Odessa Turner for a touchdown.
Another reason Atlanta might be using the pass more than one would suspect they would against that 4-1 defense is the fact that 49ers, if they've had a weakness on defense, it's been against the pass. They've allowed over 270 yards a game against the pass, a secondary that really has only one veteran back there, and June Jones has decided, well, let's put it in the air and make them stop us in the air. June Jones, the offensive coordinator, and a former quarterback here.
Second down and 8. Good protection for Tolliver, and then it's knocked away by Michael Magruder. It'll be third down and 8. The pass intended for Drew Hill. Hill coming over last year from Houston. In fact, the last time the Falcons played a home game on Monday Night Football, Drew Hill was in the game as a member of the Rams against the Falcons.
That's a poorly thrown pass by Tolliver. Hill was open, and Tolliver had it behind him.
Well behind him.
Remarkable record. 13 years, over 530 receptions. Played for Jerry Glanville, of course, at Houston.
At the 40-yard line, third and 8, with Pritchard in motion. And on the ground, going nowhere, Steve Broussard. So on third and long, they try to go against the 49er defensive line, see if they can run for a first down, see if they can fool them. Crowd doesn't like it, neither does Glanville, and they're forced to punt.
The 49ers thus far very good with their defensive strategy. They have stuck with it. Got hurt a couple times, but they have stayed right with it.
Well, we say a punt, but they have Norm Johnson, and they're going to line up ostensibly to kick a 57-yard field goal. And instead, it is snapped right to Johnson, who pooch punts it, and it's a beauty.
Oh, that's brilliant. Great kick. Brilliant.
At the 2-yard line.
Norm Johnson having a great year, and there's Bobby April, the special teams coach. Of course, Jerry Glanville loves his special teams, and he loves to trick a team if he can, and whether this tricked them or not, it was very effective.
.10:31 left in the first half, 7-0 San Francisco, and the 49ers start from their own 2-yard line after the second punt of Norm Johnson's long career. And Ricky Waters to give them breathing room after the 5-yard line. It's a gain of 3. It'll be 2nd and 7.
There's something you don't see very often, a goal line formation back on your own goal line. No wide receivers at all.
ABC's Monday Night Football is being brought to the Georgia Dome. Very close to downtown Atlanta, brand new facility, home of the Falcons. They trail 7-zip, 10 minutes to go in the first half. 2nd and 7 from the 5. Here's Waters again, behind Rackman. Out past the 20, the 30, the 40, to the 48-yard line. 43-yard run by the man out of Notre Dame who was hurt all of last year. He was the X factor coming into this season for San Francisco.
They expected that from him a year ago when they took him in the 2nd round out of Notre Dame. They actually took him because he's a good receiver. He played flanker 1 year in Notre Dame. But last year he had a broken arm, he had a broken foot, he didn't play at all. He gets a beautiful block right there. It was a great block by Rathman that springs him, and then just good open field running. Huge gaping hole for Ricky Waters.
Longest run of the season for the 49ers.
Players waiting. There was a delay in getting the chains set up on the sideline.
49ers coming into the game averaging 5.3 yards per rush, which is tremendous. At the 48-yard line, Waters in motion. Young, taken off. Ooh, banged down hard at the 49 by Mo Gardner.
Mo Gardner got up off the ground to get back into the play and get Young. And again, that's the type of situation where Steve Young is just totally disrupting any defensive scheme because of his ability. And that's just a fine play by Gardner. You could see that that was a conscious effort on his part to not grab Young's face mask. His hand and arm, they were headed in that direction.
A little bit of an effort to get him out of the game, too.
Well, a defensive lineman wouldn't do that.
On 2nd and 7, here's Waters taking it to the 47-yard line. It's going to be 3rd down and 5.
One of the problems that Steve Young will give you defensively, you have almost got to be very careful with your man-to-man. If you go into a man-to-man defense where the defender is concentrating on the receiver and not looking back into the quarterback, he'll kill you. I mean, you have to keep somebody in to spy when you get into a man-for-man.
Why,
He'll just run down the field and all day long on you.
Just because he rushes for almost 10 yards per carry.
Over 325 yards coming in there, 3 touchdowns, and you really have to almost leave your defensive game plan if you're a man-to-man team. If he just kills man-to-man.
At the 47, 3rd and 5. With Turner in motion. Here comes the blitz, and the pass is incomplete. Mike Sherrard was the intended receiver, and the Falcon defense stiffens after the long run by Waters, and San Francisco will have to punt.
That's the Falcon defense. Dan talked about it earlier. If you're going to blitz, you got to get to him, at least pressure him, and force the errant pass, and that's what they did. He had to release it, and he overthrew the intended receiver, Sherrard.
Credit Tim Green, the defensive end that time. He just made one of the 49ers up front miss and got that pressure.
Klaus Wilmsmeyer, the rookie out of Louisville, sends one in the direction of Sanders, who calls for the fair catch at the 11-yard line, and that's where the Falcons will get it. 7:11 remaining in the first half. San Francisco 7, Atlanta nothing. CEO of the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games, now 3.5 years away. Good to have you with us, Bill. And how are things going in town in preparation for the Olympics?
Well, thank you very much, Al. First, I'd like to say welcome back, you guys. We're delighted to have you here in Atlanta.
Happy to be back.
Things are going well. We got a great city, anxious to represent America in the year 1996.
Bill, how are you in terms of construction of the venues?
Well, funny you would ask. Today we had the final approval of our new stadium. It's going to be a magnificent 85,000-seat Olympic Stadium, and construction will begin in April of this year.
And this isn't a bad little building you have here either. I imagine you'll put this to use.
Gymnastics and basketball here, Billy?
Gymnastics and basketball, Frank. We're going to split it right down the middle and have 40,000 approximately for each.
The Falcons have the football at the 12-yard line with 7:11 to go in the first half. 7-0 San Francisco. And Tolliver to throw on first down. Stays in there, going deep, and it is a juggling incompletion at the 40-yard line. Don Griffin back there with Andre Rison.
Well, it's still one Rison could have almost come down with Griffin right with him, and that's where they've been hurt, the 49ers, in that defensive secondary, and particularly on the corners. Good play by Griffin. The stadium that you're going to build for the opening ceremonies, now that will be revised later on to become a baseball park, correct?
Well, as you know, Frank, we're real proud of the Braves. They've been doing great lately, and we want to build them a new home. And yes, after the games, it will be converted to a permanent 48,000-seat baseball stadium.
Well, Bill, we all wish you well, and of course we'll be looking forward to '96 also. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Bill Payne getting it all together for this great city in preparation for the '96 Olympics, as Mike Pritchard on second down is stopped at the 13-yard line after a minimal gain. Bill Romanowski makes the tackle, so it'll be 3rd down and 9. And Michael Carter still nursing that knee he injured early in the first quarter on the 49er bench.
Well, he is a big factor in what the 49ers have planned to do tonight. They're still doing it, and that is go with that 4-1 and the 6 defensive backs, because Carter, far and away, the strongest 49er defensive lineman against the run.
3rd and 9 now at the 13-yard line. Tolliver. Again, good protection. And that is deflected and incomplete, intended for Pritchard, and knocked away by Merton Hanks, and Tolliver, for one of the rare times tonight, pitched the AstroTurf.
So he's seen a couple of real fine plays by that secondary. A moment ago, it was Don Griffin, and now here's Merton Hanks with one that he almost picked off and could have put in the end zone.
Ball hit him right on the shoulder. Again, look at it, hit right on the right shoulder of Merton Hanks, and then he loses it. If he would have been able to catch that ball out of the corner of his eye, I think he could have adjusted and come back and caught that relatively easily.
So the secondary should get the 49ers good field position.
Scott Fulhay takes the snap in the end zone and gets off a beauty, a tremendous kick, fielded at the 33-yard line by Alan Grant. And Grant comes all the way across the field. A flag goes down at the 38-yard line.
That's going to be a late hit on the Falcons.
Tuggle, I believe. Yep, coming in there late in front of the Falcon bench. Bobby April saying, no way. Not my
Face
guys.
mask, 5-yard penalty.
Only 5, so they get a break in that regard. That was a 56-yard punt.
I think they're getting the face mask penalty against Louis Riddick right here. Although he doesn't grab any face mask there.
That's like what I thought they called there. 58 coming in late. Tuggle.
I agree with you. I thought they got Tuggle on a late hit. 5 yards is about the best Atlanta could hope for. And tune in to the Schembechler and Deerdorf show from Bloomington. And maybe we'll get Bobby Knight to come up to the booth.
First down, 49ers from the 43, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Mike Sherrard. Good coverage on the play. Scott Case back there with him, along with Tim McKyer.
Well-thrown football. Sherrard had a pretty good opportunity to get his hands on that, and here is what the 49ers are looking forward to coming back, and he could come back next week, John Taylor, and he makes things a lot different for Jerry Rice. When he's on the other side, there are a lot of teams will tell you they have just as much respect for John Taylor as they do of Jerry Rice. And consequently, it's hard to double cover both of them, and you look up there and you find Rice all alone or Taylor all alone, bang, you can go to them, and they're great receivers. And he can come back next week off IR.
San Francisco with the edge in yardage, and the edge on the scoreboard 7-0 as Young takes off, and he gets to the 49-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 4 with 5:40 to go, first half. 7-0 49ers on a Young to Turner touchdown pass after the 49ers had recovered, and Atlanta fumbled and marched 48 yards in the first quarter.
That sure looked like Steve Young was moving to hand the ball off to somebody, and nobody was there. Tom Rathman left the backfield in motion, and Steve Young gave every impression of a quarterback that was looking for a running back to give the ball to, and there wasn't one there.
The old song, I'm all alone in blue. No one to hand the ball to.
I can't imagine that that's a design play to send your quarterback running.
3rd down and 4.
Comes the blitz.
Young, and the catch is made by Brent Jones for a first down at the 31-yard line. Brent Jones, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the NFL, and proves it right there, taking it away from Louis Riddick.
And again, Atlanta coming with the blitz, bringing the linebackers, and the 49ers picking it up beautifully, getting it single coverage.
And pretty darn good coverage, too. Riddick is all over Jones. He just doesn't react back to the ball. Oh, that's nice hands.
It was what you don't do when you know you don't have help inside or out. You're looking at the man all the way. Good effort by one of the great pass-catching tight ends in football, Brent Jones.
20-yard gain. First down at the 31-yard line. It's a gain of 3 for Ricky Waters. Takes it to the 28. Darian Connor makes the hit with 4:10 to go in the first half. Ricky Waters, I mentioned he was the X factor. I guess the other X factor was the quarterback situation going into the year. We'll hear from Joe Montana and Steve Young at halftime. Montana, of course, has been on injured reserve. Joe hasn't played in a game since the NFC Championship game in 1990.
And he was an important X factor, too, because Dexter Carter got hurt. Bad shoulder in training camp, and they've not been able to use him at all, and Waters has really come through.
On 2nd and 7, Young under pressure.
Unbelievable.
Takes it to the 21. Not many guys can pull that off. Tippins makes the tackle.
And that's where you get the defensive guys all walking off in different directions. I mean, that's more than just yardage gained. That is just a source of frustration that gets the guys looking at each other, looking off in different directions, because this is a sack with virtually anybody else. Look at that movement by Young to get out of it.
And you just can't let it rip if you're a defensive lineman. You've got to always be conscious of the fact that just before you get a hand on him, he's going to spin or twist out of there.
Montana with that steely look from the sidelines on 3rd and 1. It's a first down as Waters takes it to the 18-yard line. Under 3 minutes remaining in the half, and the 49ers have all of their timeouts.
You talk about good teams getting better at the right time. Look at the 49ers. I mean, Dexter Carter is well enough to come off of IR if they need him. Joe Montana is having the most encouraging news that he has had in the last couple of years. John Taylor is going to begin practicing next week, and he could be ready as early as the New Orleans game next week. I mean, a lot of good things are happening for the San Francisco 49ers. And without them, look what's going on. 5.3 yards per rush and 8.7 yards per pass play, as you see, leading the NFL in both categories. This a classic case of a good football team getting better.
The only problem they had is in the defensive secondary, and that's looked very good tonight.
At the 18-yard line on first down, here's Waters. And coming up to make the hit is Deion Sanders.
Well, that's 2 in 1 game.
Whoa!
Good move by Sanders. He's laying way off in the coverage, and he just came up in a full sprint and made a blocking tackle. Watch this. Look how far back he is. Now watch him make the recovery. Looks into the backfield. Sees the run, and here he comes.
3-yard loss, 2-minute warning. Now it's time for a regular feature on what's new in the world of sports science and technology. Man on the left is Carmen Policy, who's the president of the 49ers. Ed DeBartolo, the owner of the 49ers, watching this one on the tube.
from the Georgia Dome.
Sometimes I think Carmen got that job because he won the Ed DeBartolo Jr. lookalike contest. They are strikingly similar.
2nd and 13 from the 21 as Young throws to Waters. Touchdown. Now, we talked about Waters. One of the reasons they drafted him was that he played wide receiver for Notre Dame as well as a running back. He was a pure tailback in the senior year when he gained over 600 yards rushing, but as a sophomore, he worked out on the flank, and that time that's where they brought him from, on the outside, and he was wide open, then turned in a good run.
This is the second time tonight that Ricky Waters has put Scott Case into the neutral zone. Watch the right ear screen. He puts Case down on the ground by faking a move to the inside and then going back to the outside. I mean, he froze Case to where Case just kind of sank into the turf.
That's a little bit like they used to use Roger Craig a few years ago when Roger was having those 1,000-yard seasons running and pass receiving. Ricky Waters takes you think back to Roger Craig when he was in his prime. Kofer for the point after, and Glanville's team is now down by 2 touchdowns. 1:53 remaining in the half. 14-0. Even got the high knee action. 3 remaining in the first half. 14-0 49ers to come into the game with a mark of 6-2. The Falcons 3-5. Mike Kofer to put it in the air. Deion Sanders deepest of 3 for the Falcons. And Deion will take it from 3 yards in. Out to the 19. A marker is down up at the 27-yard line.
And that's a good example of an athlete trying to make something happen for his football team. Deion Sanders ought to take that kickoff if it's 8 yards deep in the end zone. You're down 14-0. Try to make something happen. It didn't work out. He didn't get back to the 20, and on top of it, there's going to be a holding call. But nobody can say Deion Sanders didn't bring his lunch today and
holding,
put in a full day's work.
Number 46 on the return, first down.
And there's an ulcer in the making.
That takes it back to the 10 with 1:48 remaining in the first half. Bank building in what's known as Midtown, near downtown Atlanta. Beautiful architecture.
Friendly town. I took a long walk this afternoon, and you talk about a town that was fired up for a football game. Everybody you passed was into it. They're proud of this city, and they ought to be.
The Georgia Dome is beautiful and located really right in the middle of town. Spectacular sight. First down Atlanta from the 10-yard line. Each team has all its timeouts remaining. Tolliver hitting Michael Haynes, who's been pretty silent thus far tonight. He gains 8. Tackle is made by Merton Hanks. That's a little screen to the wide receiver, Michael Haynes. A little hitch pattern to him. Now they'll go with the no-huddle offense. Tolliver calling the plays at the line of scrimmage.
And that first down pickup did a big thing. It kept the 49ers from calling a timeout.
Almost a first and second down and short here. From the 18-yard line as Tolliver hits Rison. And Rison takes it up to the 36-yard line. And that is a first down. And now the Falcons can think about taking the timeouts. The point you make, though, is a great one. Had they not picked up a lot on first down, 49ers would have started taking their timeouts on defense.
You better believe it. If a 2 or 3 yard gain on first down, the 49ers stop the clock and attempt to get the ball back. They'd try to get another score before the end of the first half.
Now Atlanta spends their first, 2 remaining, 1:10 to go. At halftime, we'll hear from Steve Young, who has played so well in the first half of the season. He'll get a lot of votes at this point for league MVP. And Joe Montana, who says he's ready to come back. You know, I don't know how many people know about Steve Young, the way he grew up. Here is a good look at the 2 quarterbacks. But he grew up playing at Greenwich High School, and I talked to his high school coach, Mike Ornato, today, and they're having another good year, but he's been there 22 years, and of course he has many great recollections of this youngster in high school where he was an option quarterback, and Mike said he really didn't have that good an arm. He said, now I watch him, I'm just amazed. But meanwhile, I told the young quarterback, Steve Young, that they are going to beat Trumbull this weekend and move into the playoffs. First down from the 36-yard line as Tolliver fires. The catch is made by Rison at the 48-yard line, and that is a first down. Stopped by Thane Gash
under a minute. The Falcons want to conserve their timeouts. Clock still ticking.
Tolliver looking not like a guy who's inexperienced. Again, remember, this is his 22nd start.
From the 48-yard line, he fires a strike to Michael Haynes. He's to the 35-yard line. That's another first down, and they stop the clock with their second timeout with 40 seconds left in the first half.
You would never question the strength of that arm. That is a very difficult pass to throw. A little out, about 30 yards he had on it. He had it right on a string. Billy Joe Tolliver. Atlanta got him for a 5th-round draft pick from San Diego a year ago after they had traded Brett Favre to Green Bay.
San Diego drafted him in the 2nd round. So Atlanta got a lot of football player for a 5th-round draft choice.
Out of Texas Tech, where he's had all kinds of records and was known for more than anything else as just being one of the toughest boots you're ever going to have on your football team.
I like Jerry Glanville's description of Tolliver. Called him a Bobby Lane who goes to bed the night before the game.
Perfect.
Bobby Lane, one of the storied characters in National Football League history, who was known to carouse the night before a game along with every other night.
As you look at Wade Wilson, who is now Tolliver's backup, the longtime Viking quarterback, let loose by Minnesota, picked up by Atlanta. First down from the 35, and Tolliver fires. The catch is made by Drew Hill, but Hill is tackled inbounds at the 21-yard line. They have one timeout. Tolliver trying to get him up to the line. He wants the ball sit there so he can ground it and save some time, and he does with 19 seconds, and they want to preserve that last timeout. Boy, it took the officials a long time to respot that football.
Yeah, it was a very, very good call by the official on the sidelines. Hill was down before he got out of bounds, even though he was trying to get out of bounds.
And the fact that it was on the sidelines delayed the ball getting back out to midfield, the hash mark. And consequently, the seconds tick off.
So they're very much in field goal range right now, but down by 14, they're thinking 7.
Yep, you can see Magruder makes the tackle while Hill is well in bounds, and sometimes an official will be beneficial there, but that was an awfully good call.
2nd and 10 from the 22-yard line. Tolliver, again, good protection. This time only to the 15 to Rison, and they have to burn their last timeout.
Oh, there's a flag.
And here comes a flag.
Now, if this flag is against San Francisco, if by chance it would have been thrown before the Falcons took a timeout.
What's the penalty? Yes.
It would.
If it was called before Atlanta took a timeout, they'll get that timeout back if this goes against the 49ers.
Pat Haggerty, the official, conferring with the umpire, John Keck, who threw the flag.
We have a timeout for Atlanta. Number 3, there is no infraction on the play.
So an inadvertent flag is the ruling. 11 seconds, and now Atlanta is compelled without a timeout to at least attempt to score a touchdown on the first play and then settle for the field goal if they don't get it in.
There's Tolliver taking that timeout.
David Wilkins putting the hit on Tolliver, and Tolliver, while he's on the carpet, hustling to get the timeout.
So it is 3rd down, 4, 11 seconds left in the first half, 14-0 San Francisco.
And it looks like Atlanta's going to run one more offensive play, trying to
either into the end zone or certainly something that's going to take it out of bounds.
They better get something into the end zone or out of bounds.
I don't think they'll be able to kill it. They can't run a play and kill it in 11 seconds.
Nope. Jerry Glanville football. He'll gamble, he'll risk.
Double slot to the right. Tolliver looking the other way. Tolliver throwing, and it's knocked down, and he's very lucky it wasn't picked off by Don Griffin. With 6 seconds remaining, and now Johnson comes in to at least try to get 3 for them.
Sometimes we make mistakes and don't have to pay for them. And that's exactly the case right there with Billy Joe Tolliver. This was a poor throw, and Don Griffin almost makes him pay.
He was looking at Rison all the way. Griffin was looking right at Tolliver. He knew where it was coming. And that could have taken away the potential 3.
It is a 33-yard field goal attempt for Johnson. Falcons get on the board, and there are still 2 seconds remaining, so we will have a kickoff. As it is now 14-3, 49ers.
Good drive by Atlanta there. On their way back in their own territory, they protected their quarterback. They moved the ball on the ground.
Remember, Sanders returned that kickoff out to about the 18 or 19 yard line. Then they had the holding penalty that took it back. And darn right, considering where they started, that was an excellent drive.
That's a good way to go in at halftime.
Started from their 10 and worked it all the way to the 15-yard line. So they moved it 75 yards. Johnson is able to cash in. And there are the numbers on that drive.
75 yards in total. Fine use of the clock by Tolliver, and as you have to be sometimes to win in this league, you have to be a little lucky, and he was lucky on that last throw that it wasn't intercepted.
And the Falcons, when the second half starts, will receive the kickoff, so they'll get the ball back immediately at the beginning of the third quarter.
The great Mike Kent. Saw him getting up off the bench there. 15 years on the offensive line in this league is...
He walks like a 2.
Oh, no small feat.
Was that a lot of bumping and bruising? Over the other side, Chris Hinton tonight was going for Atlanta. They didn't know whether he could go tonight at the right side. And there's a look at Ken, 6'7", 280. But Hinton has a bad knee.
Tell you something else about Ken, guys. He does double duty. He's the president of the NFL Players Association.
When you say no small feet, you mean F-E-A-T and F-E-E-T.
I mean them both. You're exactly right.
Out of Michigan.
When you're 6'7", you better have some good-sized dogs.
Little bouncer with only 2 kicks remaining. And the Falcons just want to make sure that you didn't have a run back. And that's the way the half will end. And again, Atlanta will get the ball when the third quarter begins. Halftime. 49ers leading by a score of 14-3. We'll return with halftime activities. Montana and Young after this message from the NFL and a word from our ABC station. As these two teams begin the second half of their seasons, 49ers coming in 6-2 and trying to remain on top in the NFC West along with New Orleans, the team they will face this Sunday at Candlestick Park. And the Falcons simply trying to get back in the race and remain alive and in contention for at least a wild card spot, coming in with a record of 3-5. San Francisco on top 14-3, and the Falcons will get the ball as we begin the third quarter. Mike Colford teeing it up, and Deion Sanders drops back deep for the Falcons.
And Deion Sanders has had nothing short of a sensational first half. I mean, 2 outstanding upfield tackles that have chopped down a ball carrier and a receiver.
He'll work the room, won't he?
He sure will. But this guy, there's more to him than just show. This guy puts it up when he has to.
Colford, good deep kick. 5 yards in. Here comes Sanders.
Darn right.
Out past the 20 and tackled at the 23-yard line. Again, just trying to ignite the Falcons, and there's no better guy to ignite you on a kickoff return. Alan Grant makes the tackle. Let's take a look at the numbers through the first 30 minutes of play, and the 49ers with just a slight edge in total yardage. The turnovers, though, have really hurt the Falcons.
So much of the Falcons' yardage came on that final drive, and they picked up 3 points at the end of the first half.
But you can see of those turnovers Al mentioned, one of them led to a touchdown, 7 points, and when you're leading by 11, there's where 7 of that 11 came from.
49ers now with 22 turnovers on the year. That's pretty good.
Can't allow San Francisco to start on your end of the field, and on that drive they started at the 48-yard line.
From the 23-yard line, the Falcons begin the second half the way they began the first half, on the ground through the middle with the rookie Tony Smith out of Southern Mississippi.
And the 49ers began defensively the second half the way they began the first half. And that means 4 down linemen. Romanowski is the linebacker. You call it whatever you want. 4-1, call it the box. The 6 defensive backs to take the passing game away from the Falcons.
If you can't run against a 5-man lineup in the box, you cannot, nor should you expect to win, nor do you deserve to win a football game.
From the 25-yard line, 2nd and 8. Tolliver under pressure. Tolliver gets wrapped up and sacked at the 18-yard line by Tim Harris.
And the Pistols are under wraps.
And A very simple four-man rush. No problem. Should not have been. But again, we're talking about 2 tackles. Mike Kent over the left side, bunged up a little bit. On the right side, Chris Hinton, 75. And he's playing this game tonight with a very bad knee.
And there was a good look, Frank, at Hinton, who has really nothing to give. I mean, his legs just gave out underneath him, and he just fell to all fours with really not a real strong rush by Harris. I mean, a good move, but not an overpowering move to drive him to his knees like that.
Well, Hinton got through the first half, and I'm sure that knee is sore now. He has cartilage damage, probably surgery coming up, and he's just out there on guts.
That was the first sack of the game for Harris, who leads the team in sacks. 3rd and 15. Tolliver throws. The catch is made up at the 26-yard line, but not even close to the first down. The ball comes loose. But after the play had been blown dead, Andre Rison makes the catch, and Atlanta is 3 and out on their first possession of the second half.
One of the problems with this offense, Dan, too, as you well know, you don't have a tight end. You can't help a Chris Hinton out over on his side. If you want to protect your passer with somebody who's hurt in that offensive line, you don't have the tight end. What you do is you try and help with the back, and the backs that they have in there are not the kinds of backs you want blocking on somebody like a Holt or somebody like a Tim Harris.
The guy waiting in the wings is their #1 draft choice this year, Bob Whitfield. Outstanding All-America from Stanford.
Scott Bullhaig to kick. It's a 36-yard kick. Alan Grant from the 39-yard line runs it back into Falcon territory to the 47-yard line. So San Francisco takes over as you look at Whitfield out of Stanford. 49ers have it in Falcon territory.
Whitfield is big, 6'5" and 290 pounds. Dan mentioned the first-round draft pick, but held out all of training camp. Has seen little or no action, played a little bit in the last 49er game when they were blown away, but Jerry Glanville said he hit the lottery. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't hit yet. Training camp hasn't hit in the game.
And he hasn't impressed his Falcon teammates with his work ethic either. He's got a lot to learn about playing this game.
Young going deep on first down, and it is incomplete as Jerry Rice was the intended receiver and Tim McKyer covering on the play, and Rice in effect turning into a defensive back on a floater.
Anyone who's going to know Jerry Rice has got to be Tim McKyer, who worked against McKyer in training camp for so many years. He was a former 49er, and he would know a wide receiver. You get to know how they come off the line of scrimmage. You get to be able to look in their eyes and tell whether they're going to be the principal, and nevertheless, Rice almost made a great play.
Look how he gets it back to his left hand, controls it twice with his left hand, until his momentum just carries him beyond the ball.
McKyer wouldn't let his right hand go.
2nd and 10. Catch is made by Jones, and he has a first down. Brent Jones tackled by Ken Tippins. He takes it inside the 35-yard line.
And Brent Jones is another player that makes this 49er offense so tough to defend. He can come off the line of scrimmage, and you can't cover him with the linebacker. If you do, he's going to kill you. Great moves downfield, good speed. 19 receptions coming in. Only 27 a year ago because he had a bad knee, and they really suffered when he was out of the lineup. But look at this move right here by a tight end. That's pretty special.
1st and 10 at the 33-yard line. Here's Ricky Waters looking for room. Not much there. Picks up a yard, takes it to the 32. You know, we've talked about Young tonight and the Montana situation, and that will be evolving this week, of course, with nary a mention of Steve Bono, who was so brilliant last year when Young got hurt, and Montana was hurt all season long. And there he is in his 8th year, released seemingly about 1,000 times, but he really fits into the 49er system.
He did such a good job, but the great debate was when Young was ready to come back, should he take over his job?
2nd and 9. Play clock is down to 6. And the catch is made by Jerry Rice for a first down. And he's bumped out of bounds by McKyer, close to the 17-yard line.
It is such a team game offensively for the 49ers. You saw the audible at the line by Young. A crowded line of scrimmage by the Falcons. The offensive line flawless in their pass protection. And Jerry Rice, you see him working McKyer to the inside. McKyer loses his footing, Togo gets burned, then McKyer again finally gets him out of bounds, but that was just perfectly executed by all 11 members of the 49er offensive football team.
And the crowd allowing the team to hear the change by Steve Young as he read the defense.
Man in the middle, Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, on 1st and 10. Young off Rathman's fingertips, nearly caught by Jones. Sanders in the area. Scott Case also covering.
You saw Shanahan there in the middle, of course, took over. Mike Holmgren is now the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, who was the offensive coordinator of the 49ers. And as when George Seifert took over for Bill Walsh, it just seems that the changes come and they go, but the momentum and the continuity of what happens on the football field for the 49ers doesn't change much.
Well, they did a great job here because not only Holmgren, they have 5. They lost 4 assistants. They have 5 new coaches on this 49er staff. Mike Shanahan and George Seifert were hit together at the navel for the first few months of this year.
2nd and 10, Young, and this time he can't escape. To the 18-yard line, that's a loss of 1. Mo Gardner will get credit for a sack.
Proof that Mike Shanahan has become a factor, I guess, is the overall #1 ranking of the 49ers offense. They have been averaging 153 yards rushing, 270 yards passing. Good diversified offense. They've done a great job.
That's Atlanta's first sack of the game. It would figure with Steve Young, you get a sack, it's a 1-yard sack. And Atlanta wants to call a timeout. They did not like their defensive alignment against what the 49ers were showing on 3rd down and 11.
And what are the numbers on Steve Young? We'll talk about it when we come back, but he is so effective on 3rd and long, and particularly when he gets in the red zone. That's where he is right now.
When he's outside the red zone, in other words, outside the opposition's 20, 67.5%, much better than the rest of the league. But inside the red zone, he is much, much better than the rest of the league. Inside the opposition's 20, he completes 70% of his passes. The rest of the league, not even half.
So where it becomes even more difficult to throw, Young gets better.
And this is where he is right now on 3rd down and 11 at the 18-yard line. And the Falcons blitz. And Young steps away, but then gets sacked at the 21-yard line. So they gambled on 3rd and 11. Young escaped for the moment, but then Mo Gardner is there again to sack him.
2 sacks here on this last series by the Falcons defense, and they could not have come at a more opportune time.
Well, I don't think there's any surprise to anyone that they were going to blitz. That's what they do. And they bring Bruce Pickens. He makes a great spin and forces Young out of the pocket. Young tries to get rid of the ball, and he can't do it, and down he goes. That was a good, well-executed blitz on the part of the Falcons when the 49ers knew it was coming.
40-yard attempt from Mike Kofer. And Kofer, who missed 4 in Atlanta outside at the old stadium last year, loves it indoors. He connects from 40, and San Francisco is up by 14. 9:29 to go in the 3rd. Scoring on a punt return or a kickoff return in 4 consecutive seasons. First guy to do that since Bobby Mitchell.
And Mitchell, of course, did it for 6 consecutive seasons.
And Kofer's kick is a beauty. It's taken in the end zone by Keith Jones. Had it been Sanders, he would have most likely come out with it, but not Keith Jones, simply a touchback. And it's hard to kick off any better than Mike Kofer just did there. That's perfect.
Well, remember he did it in the first half as well. Put one back in the corner of the end zone. Very nearly the exact same spot. And that is eliminating a big weapon for the Atlanta Falcons and Deion Sanders. And you could see Sanders, the body language, the frustration. He wanted that ball. Jones, in essence, took it away from him. Well, the Atlanta offense, which has not done much. 3 points on a late drive in the first half inside the final 2 minutes of the first half. Other than that, they have been relatively dormant tonight. It's come to life or lose.
9:20 to go, 3rd quarter. Tolliver on 1st down, throws. Haynes makes the catch. That's a 1st down. It's a 15-yard pickup. He takes it to the 35. Eric Davis and Michael Magruder converge on this stop.
49ers staying with their 4-1. 6 defensive backs in the game, and you'll see the cornerback Eric Davis laying way off, probably too far considering he's got help on the inside from the safety. He was laying off about 7 when the ball was snapped, but he took off in stride with the receiver. He probably could be up a little tighter considering he has deep help.
1st and 10 from the 35.
A good look at only 5 guys up front.
And Tolliver throws. It's an out pattern caught at the 42-yard line by Andre Rison. Loses the football. Michael Magruder picks it up for San Francisco, and the 49ers have it. Don Griffin created the fumble.
Well, Griffin has played superb corner tonight. He's made a couple of big plays defensively, and now he spins Rison around. Rison, like all the Falcons, trying to make a play, struggling a little more than he perhaps should have. And out comes the football.
You're right, Frank. It's really a case of Andre Rison not going down, trying to bust away, trying to break loose, and in the process gets the football away from his body, and it's poked free.
Got that left hand in there to knock it loose.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the case. If he sits down, it doesn't happen. He's trying to make it with a little extra effort, and it backfires.
Here's Ricky Waters on 1st down, taking it to the 30-yard line. That's a pickup of 5, and Darian Connor makes the stop.
That's when you're a coach, what do you say to Andre Rison? Hey, you ought to protect the ball better, but at the same time, it comes out because you're trying to do something. You're trying to do something to help your club.
Well, there's no love lost between Glanville and Rison to begin with.
Andre Rison unhappy with himself, and you're right, he has been very vocal in his unhappiness with the way Jerry Glanville handles the team, unhappy with the way that he handled Rison's holdout.
2nd down and 5, and it's a fumble, but Waters has it bounced right back into his hands, and even though it's a big loss, the 49ers still have the football.
Now, one thing about Jerry Glanville, he has never struck me as a coach who was interested in winning a popularity contest, either with other coaches around the league, Sam Weiss and Chuck Noll, among others, will attest to that fact, and nor to players who he believes don't fit the mold of what he wants from an Atlanta Falcon player or a Houston Oiler player. He's got very rigid guidelines on what he wants his guys to do. This man is a lightning rod. And even here in Atlanta, he has polarized the community in terms of what they think of him.
Well, Andre Rison won't back off either. They really got into it at the beginning of the season when Jerry Glanville wanted him to play where he didn't want to play in that red gun offense.
3rd down and 13, and Young, Vintage Young, takes it to the 21-yard line.
And he looks a little ginger on his right leg.
Well, that's just coming down on the carpet. He slid a little early.
He may have lost a little skin on his knee.
You talk about a strawberry in the knee to the ankle.
That's a 1st down.
With what speed? He saw that little opening and he was gone. He is a quarterback that could be a running back, I think, in the NFL. This is what we're talking about. On the carpet, that is taking the hide off.
He lost his epidermis.
All right.
That hurts.
First layer, huh?
He may have gone down a layer or 2.
There's my retina A.
Needed 15 and got 18. 1st down from the 21-yard line. Good protection. He throws underneath. The catch is made by Ricky Waters. He takes it to the 16. He's tackled by Donaldson.
One of the things trainers around the National Football League are constantly fighting is the spreading of infection, because it's easy to get a staph infection, because all players who play on carpet, on their elbows, their forearms, Steve Young in that case, a good illustration, on their knees, have missing pieces of skin. And over the course of a season, they're constantly getting re-injured, re-scraped, and everything else. And it's not uncommon at all to have a player during the course of the year who develops more than just a surface infection. It's a big problem.
2nd and 6. Waters. Stop at the 15. The players can't wait for them to refine growing grass indoors. They're getting closer and closer. You know, you talk about the abrasions and all of the AstroTurf injuries. Last week, Chris Miller, if you didn't see the play, he wasn't hit by anybody in the Ram game. His foot just went the wrong way, and there went his knee, and reconstructive surgery followed.
You wonder about Lawrence Taylor, too, on the artificial surface. Lawrence, when you get a little older, the elasticity of the muscles and the tendons, and you just change. And he came down. Nobody touched him either. And ruptured the Achilles tendon. But Chris Miller was just running. He wasn't even running fast. Planted his left foot and bang. An ACL, reconstruction of the knee.
3rd down and 5. And Steve Young will take a timeout here. Or will he? Yes, he will.
Timeout.
That was
San Francisco, number 1.
That was a leisurely call by Steve.
Yeah.
Took a stroll over to Pat Haggerty and said, "Hey, Pat, how about a timeout? California dreaming."
Of Atlanta, Georgia. And Steve Young in a third down pass situation inside the red zone. You saw those fancy numbers a while ago.
Here he is again. It's 3rd down and 5 at the 15. 49ers up 17-3, and Young scrambling, buying time, and banged out of bounds at the 14. Doesn't have the first down. Bruce Pickens making sure. And so Mike Kofer will come in and attempt what will amount to about a 32, 33-yard field goal.
Pressure again on Young. Gets away from a couple of Falcons. So quick. Slides to the outside. Sherrard is open in the end zone, but Steve Young is racing for his life at this point.
It will be spotted at the 22-yard line. It's a 32-yard attempt. Kofer tonight 1 for 1, made one from 40. Steve Bono to hold it. And Mike Kofer, who really had a terrible year, there's no other way to describe it, last year, a little erratic at the beginning this year, but has the range tonight, loves it inside, and the Niners now lead by 17. Atlanta leads right now, primetime on primetime. They need a big run back by Sanders. Dion hopeful of getting Mike Kofer's kick. Flanked by Jones and Pegram. 4:06 to go, 3rd quarter, 20-3. And Dion gets a chance and starts by dropping it, picking it up, losing the football at the 25-yard line. It was Darren Jordan who stripped the football, and San Francisco has it.
Well, that so often happens when you drop a punt, a kickoff. Two things can happen. You never really get it controlled again, or you can run it all the way back. You certainly change the coverage of the punt or the kickoff, and that time Dion looking for a gap, trying to make something happen, and just gets it stripped as he hits the, look at this. Took his eyes off it a little bit as he was starting to move upfield. Now watch number 90. Jordan reaching a hand in, just knocking it out of Sanders' grip.
And Amp Lee recovers it. The rookie from Dion School, Florida State. 49ers at the 26. The Falcons have now turned the ball over 4 times, and that's a 7-yard gain for Ricky Waters, who takes it inside the 20 with 3:45 to go in the 3rd quarter. Well, that's all you need to know.
It is not possible for a team like the Falcons to have that kind of a turnover disadvantage and beat a team the quality of the 49ers. The 49ers are not capable of playing down to that level where they could lose with a 4-0 advantage in turnovers. There's that face mask penalty on Scott Case at the end of the play.
That went
and that's a good one too, boy. Yeah, not a penalty, but my God, that's certainly should have been. He almost ripped his head off.
2nd and 3, play fake. Rison makes the catch. Rasman inside the 10, looking like a scat back on that move, and takes it to the 5. It'll be 1st and goal.
Big man breaking back to the inside. All 230 pounds of him, handling the ball like he should, moving with one hand to the other, keeping the ball away from the tackler. Rathman a few years ago was a featured back as a pass receiver, over 70 receptions. Takes it away from the tackler, then covers it up. He's very good at handling the football. He has, what, 7 fumbles and over 700 opportunities.
A complete ball carrier and a complete football player is Tom Rathman.
You're a running back. He's fun to follow.
They give it to Rathman, and he gets to the 2-yard line. Stopped by Tuggle. 2nd and goal.
Down here, the Falcons really pay the price for not having size. Their linebackers all around 230 pounds. Of course, they're out of there, but even that front 3 that they offer you is only Tim Green's 245. Mo Gardner, he's 258 in the middle. Mike Gann, he's the biggest perhaps, 270, but they're just not very big. They're front seven. You can just pull them out of there.
On 2nd and goal, they give it to Rathman, and Rathman is in for the touchdown.
Oh, there's the way a fullback is supposed to carry the football. Jimmy Taylor likes that. That is the way you stay low to the ground, keeping the long axis of your body perpendicular to the goal line and driving into the end zone. The question is, did Mr. Rathman get his knee on the ground before the football crosses the plane? Let's watch the right knee.
Scott Case, safety, made the hit, and Rathman's knee was down. He reached across the plane. You see it in slow motion at regular speed. Tough call to make.
He was down a yard before he went in the end zone.
Topher for the point after, and Rathman has precipitated the wrath of the crowd as they begin to boo. Their Falcons have turned it over 4 times and now trail 27-3. Years it was Rathman and Craig, and now it's Rathman and Waters, and in a way Waters has helped to rejuvenate Rathman. Rathman going in for the touchdown. Sanders ready to receive Topher's kick.
Rathman getting credit for the touchdown.
Yes. Sanders from the 1. And good coverage by the 49ers as DN can bring it back only to the 19-yard line. Here's a reminder, tomorrow night, always a big night.
Oh, Al.
Yeah.
Will you remember those of us you knew on your way up?
You know, he can play Wiley Post.
That's right.
In the Follies.
W-I-L-Y. Forget the E. First down from the 19-yard line.
I can just see it now. Next year's new primetime show.
Al. Haynes
No, that
picks up 15.
That one's already taken.
How about announcer?
Yeah, no, I like Al. Just call it.
For lucky, Danny will take us with him.
Could I have a bit part?
I'll talk to Roseanne.
Let me be executive producer.
From the 32-yard line, 1st and 10. Atlanta, the average starting field position tonight, deep in their own territory, their own 17.
Deep in the heart of Dixie.
Yep. Here's Drew Hill making the catch. Magruder forcing him out of bounds up at the 48-yard line with 1:10 to go in the 3rd quarter.
Tolliver with a good delivery there to Hill. Good strong arm.
You know, I got the whole concept of this show in my mind. It could be about an announcer who owns racehorses.
Oh, and the horse wins 3 races in a row.
And the horse's name?
Barack. That's already copyrighted.
It's all coming together now.
Yes. 1st and 10 from the 48-yard line. The catch is made by Pritchard at the 45, and he takes it to the 38. So the San Francisco defense can afford to play real soft here, up by 24, and the Falcons at least trying to exploit that aspect of it.
June Jones, offensive coordinator, calling the play in, and this is what the red gun offense is supposed to look like. Problem is, you're down what, 27-3?
Yeah. 25 seconds left, 3rd quarter, 1st and 10 at the 39-yard line. And Tolliver throwing, and he tried to hit Hill, and it was knocked down by Hall, Dana Hall, their #1 draft pick out of Washington.
Dana Hall starting to work into that secondary, making a few better moves. Took it over as a starter, as a rookie 1st-round draft pick, and probably was thinking a little more than he was acting, as most rookies are prone to do in the complex scheme of things in pro football. And all of a sudden it's beginning to come to him, making the moves instead of thinking.
Well, the secondary in many respects, guys, is like the offensive line in terms of its continuity and the time you need to work together. Listen to the arrival years of the 49ers secondary. 90, 91, 92, 92, 92, 91, 92, and only Don Griffin has been there for a long time, since 86.
He wouldn't even drink wine like that.
And on 2nd down and 10, that secondary does its job and enables Martin Harrison to come in for the sack.
And again, Al, just a 4-man rush. 49ers have not blitzed tonight. Of course, they're not in a position to do it with the 6 defensive backs. You could bring a corner blitz or something like that. They have not felt they've had to.
Well, it's the end of the 3rd quarter, and a game dominated now by San Francisco, and we'll return with Monday Night Football after this word from our ABC stations.
A week from tonight, we'll be in Miami, and a great matchup, the Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins, first place AFC East at stake next Monday night.
Kelly and Marino.
Yep. Here we start the fourth quarter as Tolliver throws, and it is intercepted by Eric Davis. And Davis takes it across the 50, out of bounds at the 46-yard line of the Falcons, and we've got a fight on the sideline here.
That's David Wilkins and Billy Joe Tolliver. And as you can see, Wilkins is a bit outmanned. Yeah, he comes out of there relatively unscathed, considering that he was totally surrounded.
I told you how emotional Tolliver is as a football player, but Tolliver just watched one receiver all the way across the field, and Eric Davis, reading the eyes of Tolliver, back in that 49er zone, just stepped in front, picked it off. Simple as that.
Well, Tolliver tries to get in and make the tackle, and he is being bounced around like...
Buffeted is the word, I believe.
Buffeted, that's a good word, and he finally ends up in a grappling match there with Wilkins, and no punches thrown, not much of anything here.
And right in the middle of it is Glanville. Jerry Glanville right there.
If he was taller, we could see him.
Yes. 49ers have it at the 50-yard line. That's the 5th turnover. Here's Waters. And Waters falls over his own man. He fell over Foster. And a Bronx cheer goes up in the South.
Well, this crowd was in a hostile mood anyway. They booed an Elvis impersonator pretty roundly at halftime, and they're none too happy with the turn of events, and this is why. Again, look at the yardage totals. Nothing embarrassing there other than the Falcons 52 yards rushing, but again, dropped down. 4 turnovers for Atlanta that have resulted in 17 49er points.
That's 4 through 3 quarters, and of course the one right here to start the 4th. So 5 in the game now.
And yet to be determined whether it results in points.
That's batted by Corey Epps and incomplete. It'll be 3rd down and 14. You know, I begin to wonder with somebody like Glanville. Jerry went to Houston, turned that moribund situation around, but then all of a sudden he wore quite thin there with the team, with the fans. Came here. This had been a bad situation. Turned them around, got them to the playoffs. But in a way, there's a little bit of a parallel here, and I think back to the late Billy Martin in baseball, who'd come in, he'd give you that quick fix. All of a sudden, a lot of enthusiasm, some success, and then on the other side of that success, it begins to wear real thin.
And, well, let's talk about it after this play, because you raised an interesting point.
Ooh. Steve Young hit at the 48-yard line.
How do you assess a man's coaching ability given what you say? And what you say is true, Al. So what's the situation here? Is Jerry Glanville to be penalized because he got his team initially to play better than they really were, and now what we're seeing is reality? Or is it a case that his coaching style wears off after a period of time and the Falcons are underperforming? You know, you can look at it either way.
Sure. It's one of those acts, though, that really wears thin unless you win. And Wilmsmeyer makes the best of a bad situation after a lousy snap. He's able to get it away.
Well, you're right in the sense you won't find many coaches in the NFL who seek the limelight and are as comfortable in the limelight as Jerry Glanville. He's interviewed on ESPN before the game, sitting on his Harley.
That's left the game early, but the 49er defense is still coming close to pitching a shutout tonight without him.
That's the interesting thing. Obviously, the key man against the run for the 49ers, playing that nose tackle, and he's not in there, and Atlanta still unable to establish any kind of a run game, even early in the game.
1st and 10, Falcons from the 12-yard line, 13-14 to go, 27-3, 49ers. Tolliver, that's off Rison's hand, and it's picked off at the 25-yard line. That is a 6th turnover by Atlanta. Merton Hanks with the interception.
A little high to Rison, but one he nevertheless should have handled. Comes off his hands, and Hanks gets the turnover for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a throw that if it's a little lower is a completed pass.
But even the hands of Rison, you expect him to catch it. He's up. You got to catch that football. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But he puts it in a position, Frank, where it's at risk. You're right. I agree with you. Rison normally catches that ball, but if the ball's 2 feet lower, it's not even in dispute. You'd have to work to drop it.
He certainly puts Rison's body at risk when you put it up that high, but you got to hold on to that.
1st and 10 at the 21-yard line. Here is Ricky Waters. Picking up 3, takes it to the 18-yard line with 13 minutes to play.
And thinking back over the turnovers and Jerry Glanville, his problems early on with Andre Rison. We saw Rison with the fumble a little earlier, and that deflection causing another turnover. What Jerry Glanville does, he kind of gets the team to play us against them type of way, and that works for a while. You can do that. I mean, you're rebels, and he's a rebel, and you know, rebels are great when they're winning. They really are. When they're down, you really compound your problems. Individuals are great when you're winning.
When you don't win, you start as a member of the us.
When you're down, you want to be a team.
But after a while, you become one of them.
2nd and 8, and Young throws into the end zone. It is Jerry Rice. Touchdown.
98. Number 98 for Jerry Rice in his quest to catch Steve Largent, who has 100 receiving touchdowns.
And was he open?
Yeah, well, only a little.
That's 98 receiving plus 5 rushing, the 103rd of his career right here.
And of those 98, he's seldom been more wide open than this.
I don't know whether
Nary a Falcon in the picture.
Bobby Butler is the nearest one to him, about 7 yards away. Jerry making the threat deep into the end zone, breaking it off across, giving Steve the perfect target.
That's the 19th touchdown he has scored against Atlanta, so almost a 5th of his career touchdowns have come against the Falcons. Tolliver for the point after. 2 more to catch Largent. 30 catches Largent. He'll do it in a lot fewer games. It took Steve 200 games to get to 100. Don Hutson, the great long ago Packer receiver, 117 games, and Rice in that same area. The kickoff is run back by Keith Jones out to the 20-yard line.
I've seen Deion Sanders. Keith Jones. There's no Deion Sanders. You should not be bringing that out.
You know, when you look back at that, those passing numbers and the number of games that it took, really sticks out in my mind is what Don Hutson accomplished back in an era when it was really difficult to throw the pass.
Deion doesn't want him to bring it out either.
Yeah, well, Deion doesn't want to have to block for it.
Watching Keith Sanders as opposed to Deion Sanders is like watching in slow motion.
Sanders would rather run than block, and you can see that's Wade Wilson, who's replaced Billy Joe as the quarterback for the Falcons.
Wade Wilson, the longtime Minnesota Viking. Tolliver, in all likelihood, done for the night. 1st and 10 at the 21-yard line. Rison out to the 35, and all he's doing right now is padding the stat sheet.
Wade Wilson, of course, one of the players that the Minnesota Vikings thought they could do without this year. Former starter for them, former Pro Bowler for the Minnesota Vikings, and one of the big games he had in his 5 games that he started a year ago was against the 49ers, and he beat the 49ers.
1st and 10 at the 35. And there's a sack back at the 26-yard line as Dennis Brown knocks him down. 8-yard loss. You're right. You started to mention, Dan, Don Hutson. You forget about somebody like that with Steve Largent, but Hutson playing in a long ago era. Right there with Rice in terms of getting to a certain milestone figure in the next number of games.
In an era where you could knock the receiver down at the line of scrimmage, you could manhandle a receiver much more than you can so now.
And most teams never even threw the ball in the era of Don Hutson.
Right.
And I've seen some old footage of him, and had remarkable speed. He'd catch the ball on just a little hitch, and away he would go. No one would even touch him.
And there it is again, as you can see. Largent, a great career, of course, but Hutson and Rice in 117 games, up near 100. Maynard, Allworth, Warfield, and what they did in their careers.
Well, I never got to see Don Hutson play live, and I'll have to settle for Jerry Rice, and I don't feel slighted at all.
3rd and 18 as Wade Wilson throws. And Don Griffin was right there. Now the pass intended for Drew Hill.
Well, you could characterize that as Griffin was really open.
I think Griffin bruised. I think he bruised his sternum with that one.
This, for me,
Watch this pass hit Don Griffin right in the solar plexus.
That would have been a 7th turnover. Scott Fulhaig to punt. Haggerty drops the flag.
There are actually
four
four flags.
Snap, number 42, offense.
There are 4 flags on the field. That's Jeff Donaldson, strong safety, who's also in on the punt coverage team. Jerry Glanville, a big believer that my frontline guys have to play a role on special teams.
Hey, when you have a red gun offense, though, with all those little wide receivers, your special teams guys really are hurt because you don't have those linebacker types that make such good special team players. The tight ends.
Kick bounces at the 50-yard line and is fielded by Merton Hanks, of all people, in for the touchdown. Merton Hanks going back there to help block.
That's embarrassing. That's when it reaches the embarrassing stage.
Particularly, Dan, against a team that prides themselves in their special teams. Bobby April, the coach, they work on it perhaps more than any other team in the league. Jerry Glanville. That's how he broke into pro coaching as a special teams coach.
That's just a question of the ball bouncing and everybody in a black jersey just totally goes to sleep and stops their pursuit and their coverage. And Hanks takes advantage of the situation, and he's the only guy still playing.
Alan Grant was the 49er who had dropped back. The kick wasn't anywhere near him.
No, and he's waving everything off.
Sure.
Grant's waving everything off, and rather than follow the football, the Falcons were following what Grant was doing and just stopped.
Well, it's heady thinking, too, on the part of Hanks, because you're up 34-3. I mean, take a little risk. It's okay.
48-yard run back. Kofer for the point after. There's a flag down. Well, it's been this sort of season on Monday night. The score is 41-3, but there is still some drama for some people.
And it's not over yet.
Offside. Defense, number 29. 5-yard penalty.
There's still
will be assessed on the kickoff.
Still 10:57 to go, and the 49ers are.
That's right.
Now, what'll be interesting to see is if people like Rice and Young come back into the ballgame. We'll see after this brief commercial timeout.
Yes. Mike Sherrard, the 49er offense, number 1 in the league, coming in against the worst defense in the league. The score reflecting it, 41-3. Though in good measure, it's been due to the Atlanta turnovers. And the 49ers have capitalized, and even Dion's not going to run this one out. Down by 38.
Oh, and look at Dion reacting to the fact that what crowd is here is booing him.
ABC's Monday Night Football is being brought to
Boo Deion Sanders for not returning that kickoff out of the end zone. 41-3. Again, this is a guy that hasn't played a football game since the 11th of October, and that's being a little overly critical.
I think they're pulling the entire situation more than anything else right now. A 17-yard pickup. Well, let's face it, Atlanta's to the point where even Francisco Cabrera couldn't help them now.
Helped the Braves, he did, but he's not here tonight.
Wade Wilson took an unbelievable shot. Watch this. Unbelievable. Pierce Holt, who's playing great football for these 49ers. Look at this. Buries him.
First down at the 36-yard line is Wade Wilson. Hits Andre Rison, and he goes out of bounds.
Andre Rison stopping the clock.
Well, let's see. It is the composite score would now be 97-20 in the 2 games this season between these 2 teams. And Steve Bono loosening up. He'll be coming in when the 49ers get the football. From the 44-yard line, Wade Wilson throwing, and that's incomplete, intended for Haynes. So what's the big story in San Francisco this week? Well, you know what it's going to be, even though you've got New Orleans coming in. Joe Montana is ready to come back. What will the 49ers do? Does he go on the practice squad? How soon does he go on the active roster? But it's pretty clear that even when Joe comes back, that man right there is your #1 quarterback.
You know, it's not going to bother him so much this year either. He's been through it last year. He went through it with Joe all year long, and then would he or wouldn't he come back, and who would be take over? But he went through it with Bono when he was injured his knee. But he's been through it. He is just going to kind of rip off his shoulders, so to speak, and he's having a great year personally.
3rd down and 3. At the 50-yard line, catch is made by Pritchard, and that's a 1st down.
Well, the normal progression for moving off of injured reserve is to go to the practice squad. George Seifert wants to see for himself. I mean, George has always, he's been playing this very coyly and saying, well, you know, Joe been throwing? Well, I haven't seen it. So he wants to see Montana throw for himself, and to see that, he'll see it when Montana's on the practice squad. And then from the practice squad, you go to the active roster.
Little dump off. That's caught by Keith Jones.
You're allowed 5 moves from the injured reserve list to your active list during the course of the season, and the 49ers have plenty of moves left. They have one for Montana. They have one for Dexter Carter. They have one for John Taylor.
Taylor coming up next week, and what a addition he's going to be to this team. Hopefully he can come back.
1st and 10 at the 37-yard line. And the catch is made by Rison. Well, I know some of you saw the interview at halftime. Part of it, the feeling I got clearly, though, with Montana is that Joe will play next year. He will play football next year. It doesn't necessarily have to be in San Francisco. He does have 1 more year remaining on his contract. There was some confusion through some remarks he made in Phoenix last week, but he does have a year. However, he and Ed DeBartolo, the owner, have had a great relationship through the years for the most part, as that pass is incomplete. And it's conceivable that Joe could go to Ed and say, I'd like to go someplace else. And also, complicating it to some extent is the fact that Steve Young can be a free agent at the end of the season.
Interesting.
And what type of a free agent?
Because at the beginning of this year, Steve Young was apparently on the market. The Raiders coming very close to making a deal for him, or so it's been said.
You know, I mentioned what type of a free agent might Steve Young be, the NFL's version or Judge Doty's version in Minneapolis. This whole class whose contracts expire February 1st, there's going to be a ruling as to whether or not they'll get the Keith Jackson treatment, Webster Slaughter treatment, and be utter and complete free agents.
Tony Smith picked up a 1st down, taking it to the 25-yard line. Montana, though, he's a football player. It's what he loves to do. He says he feels great. The elbow is fine. He's got a little numbness in his finger, but he's learned to work through that, and he wants to play.
You know, I understand the mentality. We talked about it, Al. I was set out a year and retired and was gone a year, and I realized what I loved to do more than anything was play this game. And most anything else I was going to do, I could do later in life. I went back and played 4 more years of it.
And you're a fortunate player, Frank, if you can orchestrate your own departure. And obviously Joe Montana is not in a position to orchestrate his own departure if he has to leave. Lawrence Taylor, another example. You're forced from the game. It's not of your own choosing.
Right. Catch is made at the 16-yard line by Drew Hill, a little short of the 1st down with 7:40 to go.
Well, that was one of the toughest things I've watched Lawrence going down yesterday. One of the great players of all time, and there's no way this type of Hall of Fame player should end a career going a golf cart. It was really shattering for me personally.
A golf cart not on a golf course. 2nd down and 1 as the catch is made inside the 10. That's a 1st down. Pritchard, let me ask you, Frank, in light of what happened yesterday, do you think Taylor will consider at all the possibility of playing again next season?
In light of what happened now, I'm just hopeful that the ankle, the foot is going to be all right. That's a very serious injury, a rupture Achilles tendon, and particularly at the age of Lawrence Taylor.
Well, the doctors certainly were giving everyone the impression that it's a type of injury that one can come back from. And what's interesting to me is what happens if it gets Lawrence Taylor to refocus on the game of football, because it was apparent to me that he'd kind of lost that focus a little bit. He wasn't, you know, by his own admission, he wasn't enjoying the game the way that he had. You know, maybe this will you know, maybe inspire him to rehab and want to come back and give it another try.
I think you're probably right, Dan, and I think Joe Gibbs, a week ago Sunday night, looked out there and said, why'd you have to focus on us? Because it was the Lawrence Taylor of old once again. But you're right, he's never been a player that worked out off season. All he did play golf, he didn't lift weights. And he perhaps could be the one player that could come back and play after that type of injury.
That's Broussard making the catch, taking it to the 2-yard line. It'll be 3rd and goal.
No, they're going to call Bob Whitfield for holding, I believe, and bring this thing back. The Atlanta right tackle was playing a little grabba.
Illegal use of the hands. Number 70 on the offense.
Chris Hinton there on the sidelines has really played a lot more than anyone thought. Number 70 there is Whitfield, and whoa, you can actually, he grabbed the face mask. That was David Wilkins, number 66, that he was working against. A good effort though by Hinton tonight. The Falcons weren't sure if he was even going to be able to answer the bell and play at all, and he played the majority of the ball game.
2nd and goal at the 18, 6:51 to go, 41-3, San Francisco.
Hinton rides, and of course, and Indianapolis #1 draft pick was the reason Jeff George is throwing football for Indianapolis.
Rison makes the catch, and he is tackled by Don Griffin at the 9-yard line.
Hinton was actually a part of our Monday Night Football Open for almost an entire season. He was wearing one of my masks from that Halloween night escapade in Indianapolis.
He couldn't figure out why no one knew him.
He didn't understand why little children were running away from him.
Wilson, and he throws that one out of the end zone.
I just quickly congratulate my former roommate, Charlie Connolly, who's this past Friday night was inducted to the University of Mississippi's Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Charlie Connolly would have been in the other Hall of Fame if he had had better receivers than me to throw to. He was a great one.
Yes, he was.
Just need the personnel around you.
That's what Glanville is thinking right now.
Yeah, 4th and goal at the 9-yard line, 6:12 to go.
The other thing we didn't touch on, the players that he didn't have at the beginning of the year, not only Dion because of his baseball commitment, but how about Brian Jordan? Baseball got to him again. He was a good safety.
It was a matter of money, and Jordan signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Glanville knew that the Falcons weren't going to enter that arena the size of the contract that he got from the Cardinals. And
Rick Bryan is defensive lineman, one of the best, 1st-round draft pick. Neck injury, retired from the game. He lost a lot of people.
John Rady, a linebacker.
Exactly.
Falcons turn it over on downs. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by GTE Telecommunications Consultants in Atlanta. They clearly drew that one up before the game from the 9-yard line.
You know, the signs used to be a much bigger production.
Yes. Amp Lee picks up 2. Reduce the Crayolas now.
We had a great weekend down here. Kathy came down with me, and we met a lot of people involved in the Olympics. Cody was even elected as an honorary citizen of the city of Atlanta. He's never been here, but he's a citizen.
Oh, is that he wasn't here? But they got the key to the city, huh?
The 2.5 to get a key to the city, that's big stuff.
I had room service to watch television last night. That was pretty exciting for me.
2nd down.
I know what you watch, too.
2nd and 8 from the 11-yard line.
You love music.
Don't you start that.
Here's Amp Lee again. You mean we're to that point in the game again, guys, huh?
Yes.
Have I told you that Malibu Kelly Hayes moved to Aspen?
And they have 2 feet of snow and a storm warning coming up.
We are hitting new lows.
Billy Joe. Not to be tonight, Billy Joe.
Well, the Falcons have hit a new low tonight, and you know, it's an amazing thing. Last week we're in Chicago. It's that same sort of situation. Game over early in the 2nd half. Very few people left in the stands, and this place has cleared out tonight. 3rd down and 4 at the 15-yard line. 4.5 minutes to go. Bono throws, and the catch is made by Jamie Williams, the tight end.
And both teams saying stay in bounds.
Well, the standings in the NFC West will look like this now. And at the moment, San Francisco would technically be in first place because they have beaten New Orleans at the Dome. But everything's on the line in terms of first place next week at Candlestick. And Atlanta and the Rams are both 3 and 6.
There are the haves and the have-nots.
We have New Orleans coming up down the line against the Redskins on Monday Night Football.
2 weeks.
San Francisco and Detroit.
From the 28-yard line, 1st and 10. Ant Lee takes it to the 32-yard line. So the 49ers, who came into the game averaging 29 points per game, will increase that average slightly. Glanville's got to figure out a way to regroup.
The 49ers, they got a pretty tough schedule down the line. When you think of it, they got Philadelphia, they got Miami, they got Minnesota at Minnesota.
But they have 5 of 7 at home, which is important.
Well, Philadelphia and Miami both be at home, but Minnesota's playing great. All those teams, Philadelphia's struggling a little bit. Philadelphia is capable of any Sunday playing back to what we know they can do.
2nd and 6 from the 33-yard line. Lead to the 37 with 3.5 minutes to play.
George Seifert, the coach of the 49ers, do you think there's a guy who wins more than George Seifert and gets less publicity about it, and I guess less credit for it? I mean, here is a man who is an outstanding football coach, and it's not just a question of him running and continuing Bill Walsh's program. This is now George Seifert's program, his football team. They reflect his personality, his discipline, and this is one of the truly fine football coaches in the National Football League, and I think in many respects overlooked.
It's just hard to imagine him on a Harley.
Look at this. Atlanta has actually outgained the 49ers. Yes, it is a difficult picture.
Well, Atlanta's had a couple of long but non-fruitful marches tonight.
Well, it's turnovers. It's what the turnovers will do.
Encroachment. Defense, number 74.
Going back to that, Dan, isn't it hard to believe, though, that Chuck Noll was never Coach of the Year?
Yeah, that is.
And they have a little bit of the same type of persona that at least certainly is perceived by the public. They're very quiet. They seldom get into wild gesticulations. They don't smile a whole lot. They just are very effective and with good organizations.
1st and 10 at the 42-yard line. Up to the 50 goes Lee. Another amazing thing about Seifert, who is now 3.5 years into his head coaching career, this team has never been blown out since he's taken over. I mean, even the great teams once in a while throw in a real clunker and get beaten by 4 touchdowns.
Their idea of a clunker is 10 points.
Yeah. I mean, last week is about as big a clunker as San Francisco is capable of. At Phoenix, they just look past the Cardinals and they get beat by 10.
That's Steve Kittrick, his offensive line coach there, communicating with George.
Well, what a job he did over the years as a defensive coordinator for Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh, of course, deservedly got all the attention and all the focus. A great coach, but all of those great teams going through those early Super Bowls, they were always single digit defensively. They were 2, 3, 4, 2. He did a tremendous job as a defensive coordinator.
2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
Be warned. And we'll return with Monday Night Football after this message from the National Football League. Long faces on that Falcon bench. Jamie Dukes.
Well, when you go 3 and 6 and look down the road, what's going on in this division, you know you've got a tough 7 weeks coming up.
2 minutes to play. 41-3. San Francisco. 2nd down and 2 at the 50-yard line. Steve Bono finishing up for Steve Young. Ant Lee turns up the wattage and is out of bounds at the 47-yard line for a 1st down.
Ant Lee,
what a revolting statement.
Ant Lee, If they had Dexter Carter, they probably would have used more of Ampley, but as it turned out, Ricky Waters emerged as the back that they are just going to leave in there in single duty, so to speak, because when Dexter Carter was the #1 tailback, they would alternate backs in and out with him, but Ricky Waters can do it all.
Ampley will be an electrifying performer before it's all said and done. What do you think, Dan?
Well, he definitely took the path of least resistance there for a man who was wired into the play. And now some guys blow their fuses.
Well,
turn out the lights.
Official stepped in and short-circuited that.
This game has been transformed into something ugly. All right, that's it.
That's it.
Tough night for Jerry Glanville.
And for George Seifert, well, they'll get home in the wee hours of the morning, but it's always a happy ride home.
I think he has to be very happy with what he saw early in this game when it was a game with what was going on in his secondary. He had some good plays by Griffin, Eric Davis, and Dana Hall also performing well.
Gang, the executive producer of ABC Sports, is Jack O'Hara. Tonight's game produced by Ken Wolf and directed by Greg Janoff. A great gang here. Technical director Joe Chavo. Big Ben Harvey, our associate director. Dick Buffington, Emily Deutsch, Nancy Stern, halftime producers. Fred King and Mitch Green, the assistants to the producer. Bob Simon, Dennis Zabo, Jim Licata. Steve Hurd, our unparalleled director of information. Statistician George Hill. Spotter Malibu Kelly Hayes. Stage manager Kirsten Anderson. Mark Amento and Brian Mobilson on the computer stats. And the 49ers on their way home with a 7-2 mark. Get ready to take on the Saints. What's left of this crowd sends the Falcons back to their Suwannee training facility with a cascade of boos. And morosely, it's Glanville walking off with his team having been bombed 41-3. Wither Joe Montana.
Interesting week coming up for him.
We'll talk to you from Miami next Monday. Till then, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf. Good night from the Georgia Dome in Atlanta.